All right, we're here with Civil Disagreements with Jason and Brett, and just having another friendly discussion. And actually, yeah, I guess it is a somewhat of a disagreement. So we're talking about CNN and how unbiased or biased they are. Jason, what do you think? Are they biased?
Yeah, I mean, they toe the line, I think, between reporting facts that comport with their narrative or their intended narrative, but they ignore news. They definitely have an agenda, in my opinion. All of their major network hosts or personalities seem to have an anti-Trump agenda. I think we can name one, maybe two who don't, and that's about it.
Yeah, I don't even know that I would. I mean, to me, I wouldn't say like Don Lemon is fair to Trump, but I would say that Jake Tapper probably definitely leans a little anti-Trump, but he's also fair. I think Jake Tapper's probably been one of the fairest, like, mainstream anchors overall, to me at least. I felt like during the Iraq War and the Bush administration, he was fair to the Bush administration, and I thought he was tough on the Obama administration when he needed to be, and ask good questions. Anderson Cooper, I think, is pretty fair overall. But do they lean a little anti-Trump? I would say yes, but that's probably because they're used to, frankly, catching Trump in like a lot of misstatements or flat out lies. And yeah, so I think that's why they probably lean that way. I don't know that I could tell you that any of them are pro-Trump. I don't. Who's their well?
Rick Santorum is a name you dropped, and that's about it, right?
Yeah, but he's not really like one of the main reporters. He's more of a commentator, right?
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. He's probably not even a paid. Maybe he's a paid commentator. He probably isn't.
Yeah,
Is he?
he's a contributor there, certainly. So I'm sure he's paid by them. But yeah, Santorum is, probably one of the more prominent Republicans on there that's, leans pro-Trump or whatever, or at least can give, the coherent Republican line or rebuttal to a lot of arguments and stuff. But yeah, I don't think there's certainly not any pro-Trump.
No, they hate him. They literally hate him.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think Tapper and
They literally hate him.
I think Don Lemon probably hates Donald Trump for sure, and certainly Chris Cuomo hates Donald Trump, I would say, for sure.
No, well, see, that's the funny thing is like, so Donald Trump was in the public eye for 50 years, and all these people loved him.
I wouldn't say that.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't love him. No way.
Do we have any like evidence of them saying he's a bad person?
Do you have any evidence that they loved him?
I mean, he was an NBC star. He was at all sorts of celebrity events. All these people like begged him to be on The Apprentice. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Some of them were on The Apprentice.
That was a Mark Burnett production. So yeah, I mean,
but it's Trump and his family hosting it, and then all of a sudden Trump runs for president, and he's Hitler, racist, Russian agent, nonstop for years. What's interesting to me is I haven't heard much about Russia in the last ever since Mueller actually spoke. Everything's just, I guess, fine in Washington, D.C. these days with Russiagate. We're just on to racism gate now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all the bullets of the big gun are gone. So now it's a question of whether the House is going to impeach Donald Trump and whether that's a good idea for them to do it either politically or whether that would even matter legally.
Yeah, bring it on. Bring it on. While Baltimore rots and the rest of the American agenda is ignored, let's focus on a hoax. That sounds smart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're probably not going to do it. Pelosi seems like she doesn't want to do it for political reasons, that she doesn't think it would be beneficial to them, but that may be questionable. She's probably on the fence a little bit on it, but leans against impeachment. The only reason to maybe do it would be, one, it's not going to go anywhere. So if they do impeach him, the House could impeach him, and it would go over to the Senate for them to try him. remove him from office if it got that far. And the Senate's not going to do that. The Senate's held by Republicans. So
until 2020, right? And if they lose it, if the House begins impeachment hearings and the election starts to go favorably for the Democrats, they're going to stay with it. If it doesn't, they'll be back to racist gate or whatever other thing they want to do.
So it's not going to really matter at the end of the day. Either they beat him in 2020, which is just, almost a year away, and then the whole impeachment process would be like a year process anyway. So it would be better for them to just beat him in the election. The only reason...
Which is, but they'll have a backup plan like they tried to do in 2016, but failed.
What do you mean?
The backup plan of having spies all around Trump's campaign implicating Trump figures in Russian collusion.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be probably, you would think that the Trump campaign would be very cognizant of, not letting spies or even having the implication of that happen. But, but that kind of opposition research and political, gamesmanship happens on both sides of the aisle, right? So, but Trump would be smart.
But it shouldn't happen with our government agencies.
Well, Trump controls the agencies, right? He's the executive branch now. So what's the problem? He's got his guy Bill Barr in there that's overseeing everything and looking into, the past allegations and everything. So theoretically, shouldn't Trump be pretty much immune from that happening?
So it's just, what do you mean immune from that happening? Yes, this time around he probably will be not immune from.
So then the Democrats won't have that card then, right? They won't be able to infiltrate the campaign and get the government to, investigate Trump. And
they have the media and China and some of Europe all helping them or on their side. And also I'd say a lot of the social media, big tech companies too. But Trump has a big apparatus now, more than he had running in 2016.
Yeah, right. Well, under the circumstances, though, Trump has a lot of MAGA supporters, right, online that are very willing to get into the weeds and engage in social media battles and whatnot. So, they have their own media and conservative media and social media to be able to combat. So isn't it a pretty fair playing field?
It's really hard to. Did you hear about the news with the New York Times, that leak from the New York Times executive or editor?
No.
Where it was an internal memo or notes from an actual executive meeting where they said, yeah, we're catering to the anti-Trump audience, and we've got to have that narrative and fulfill their need for anti-Trump material.
Mm-hmm.
So it's you're not reporting the news, you're reporting to fill a need, and that's the New York Times.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all the media, mainstream media apparatuses anymore, they have to involve, get themselves into clickbait media and, catering to the people that are still reading them. And that's one of the problems with, that set of it. I guess on the flip side, though, you have like the Wall Street Journal, which is kind of a, center-right, leaning right, huge media organization that, is mainstream and has their point of view to help that dialogue along also. But they'll be critical of Trump's administration from time to time too, as they should.
They're probably the best news source in the country, right?
I like reading their stuff personally, just because I feel like it's more business oriented, and I tend to lean towards more business oriented stories. But it's
also pretty balanced and not very seldom are they indulging in the political hysteria and that nonsense.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think they don't get too into the political hysteria or conspiracy theory stuff. They weren't all on the probably Russian collusion bandwagon, although every media outlet had to cover those stories quite a bit because it was in the news and people were talking about it, and but yeah, their editorial pages are usually more center right than anything. So I prefer to read them just because I think you're getting a business oriented perspective and at least a fair political perspective, or at least somebody that they're willing to criticize the Trump administration when they think on principles that they're wrong over certain things. So, but the media is fragmented. So that's, I guess, my point is, I think it's it's a fair landscape. It's not like Donald Trump can't get his point of view out. In fact, his tweets are covered on every media outlet. Almost all of them are covered on a regular basis. And if anybody wants to see his perspective, you can just log on to Twitter and pull up his Twitter feed, right? So it's not like they're not going to get their message out.
Yeah. I mean, did you see his tweet today? He retweeted some account that had like a 10-minute video showing all the hypocrisy at CNN.
No. Well, there you go. So
pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, there you go.
Do you remember this? Do you remember the 17 intelligence agencies believe like he's colluding with Russia, or that Russia hacked our election? Do you remember that line?
Yeah. Well, they said that they definitely, hacked and were involved in the election. Yeah. They didn't say 17 intelligence services thought he was colluding.
Right. And do you believe that?
Well, they didn't say that though. What they said was 17 agencies thought that they were involving themselves or trying to interfere in the election.
And do you believe that to be true? That 17 agencies said that?
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, I need to go look at it, but there's not 17 agencies I don't really care about. I care about like 3, like the CIA and the FBI and, maybe the DIA or
NSA.
NSA.
So here's the truth of what happened. There are 17 intelligence agencies, I believe, in the United States government, unless a new one's been created recently, like with the Space Force or something. I don't know. But 17 at the time. Those include like the National Geospatial Agency, which deals, it was total fiction said by Hillary Clinton and her acolytes, pushing that 17 intelligence agencies had this consensus. The reality is there were 3 intelligence agencies who weighed in on it. The CIA under John Brennan, the FBI under James Comey, and the NSA under, I forget who was in charge. Maybe it was Hayden. Maybe Hayden was out at that point.
No,
I forget.
I think Hayden's been out for a while.
Who was, I forget who was in charge of NSA during the election. But anyway.
Yeah, I can picture him, but I don't remember the name.
Without a doubt in my mind, Brennan and Comey are Trump haters. I think there's more than sufficient evidence to draw that conclusion.
Yeah, I think based on all of their statements and,
Their 2 agencies said that they had high confidence that Russia hacked the election or hacked the DNC and Podesta's emails.
Okay.
The 3rd agency is the NSA. That's the actual agency who would definitively know, without a doubt, whether Russia hacked.
Yeah, you would think CIA would know, probably.
It'd be the NSA who would know the cyber
information. Both of those, CIA, FBI, NSA,
but
sure.
The NSA reported moderate confidence, while the other 2 agencies said high confidence. And then the remaining 14 other agencies had no comment. They're not interested in that. They do other things like military, issues or geospatial things.
Right. Yeah. It wouldn't fall under their purview to do that.
So it's just another BS, and that was repeated ad nauseum on CNN over and over again, despite even someone who doesn't know shit about intelligence realizing that that's bullshit. But people as intelligent as you years later still believed it.
Well, I didn't say I believed it.
CNN.
I mean, I didn't say I believed it. I said I prefaced it with, well, 17 seems like too many. Like they wouldn't know. I inherently already knew that there would only be a few that would be investigating or in the purview of that information that would be in the know.
So why was CNN making a mistake that you're intelligent enough not to have made?
Yeah, sure. To prove a narrative, I guess. Yeah, I mean, they believed, and the question might be though, is it accurate though? I mean, even let's just say we'll take the 17 number off. Okay. Do we believe with a high degree of confidence or moderate confidence that Russia was involved in trying to at least put disinformation or affect the election in some way or another, whether they hacked Podesta's emails and released that to WikiLeaks, or whether they were buying Facebook ads to stir up the American election? I mean, don't we think that happened? Do you think that happened?
I think that those allegations have been made. They haven't been proven. I haven't seen transparency on those issues sufficient for me to draw a positive or negative conclusion. Certainly those allegations have been made, but again, why was the 17 intelligence agencies narrative pushed when the actual facts was there was a report from 3 agencies, 2 of which said high confidence, and the one who should know said only moderate confidence. And that could have been reported in 5 seconds. But instead they kept pushing the everybody knows it's Russia bullshit. And then the same thing with Russia over and over and over again. And then years down the road, the grand poobah of Russiagate, Robert Mueller, comes and kind of puts everyone to sleep because everything's out of his purview and he doesn't know the facts of his own report adequately, it seems. And then, whoop, no more Russiagate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously there wasn't enough there to, make it to where the Congress can impeach the president over those allegations. The strongest part of the whole Mueller report thing was really, did the president commit obstruction of justice? That's like the thing that they're hanging their hat on, right?
So do you remember when they interviewed Robert Mueller and they asked him, when did you end your investigation? And he said something like, well, when we finished all of our interviews and did all, and they said, how did you end it? And he said, I said that, we were concluding the investigation. They said, were you ever impeded in any time during your investigation? No, I was not impeded. You were unobstructed the whole time is what you're saying. Like, the whole thing is nonsense. Like, if you were pushed in this position and you're the president, of course you're going to say to your attorneys, like, this guy's out to get me. This is a BS investigation. How do we put this to bed?
And he wasn't fired. So there was, in the report, Trump told Don McGahn, his lawyer, the White House counsel, that you should fire Robert Mueller, but he never was fired, right?
Correct.
So theoretically, had he fired him, maybe you could make the case that was obstruction of justice. But since it didn't happen, you can't really.
Then why are we talking about it? Why are they hanging their hat on that?
I was going to basically agree with you that was the point of, if you listen to every Democrat, they're basically saying that the reason to impeach Donald Trump was over obstruction of justice. But they're not really talking about the actual collusion with Russia or conspiracy with Russia piece of it, which was the whole point of the investigation, right? Was to find out if the Trump campaign was colluding or colluding with Russia to affect the outcome of the election, right? And there's, no evidence that ever took place. So they're basically moving on to, well, since that didn't happen, we're going to try to get him on obstruction, which is a pretty hard case to make. But yeah, I mean, certainly point well taken that there was.
What about Hillary Clinton deleting 33,000 emails under congressional subpoena? Is that obstruction? It's funny how the same investigators were involved in those two cases, and one of which now we're blossoming with obstruction allegations, and the other one where they actually hammered BlackBerries and they they bleached bit hard drives, and no obstruction. Move on, everybody.
Yeah. So is Bill Barr investigating any of that, by the way?
I don't know. I don't know if there's currently an investigation still going on about that. But we
definitely said like he was going to investigate that if he was elected, right? And
there's still news coming out about it. 2 or 3 days ago, they came out with Paul Gambetta. It was the employee at Platte River Network who housed the Hillary server or bleach bit it and took care of it. Well, he had a dummy account on Gmail that he would use for odds and ends types of things. And he copied all of those emails onto his dummy account on Gmail, okay, likely monitored by China, containing classified information. And what happens when they ask this dude questions? Before they ask him any questions, they grant him immunity. He knew who the client was. He knew she was Secretary of State. Ignorance of the law is not a defense of the law.
Yeah. Well, it's really hard to know what happened in these cases, right? Like we could speculate here all day that something nefarious took place, and but
something nefarious did take place. Who's speculating? I'm not speculating about that. We know that's true.
Yeah. I guess we don't know, that there was anything nefarious on the emails, I guess is my point.
Well, if you ever get a congressional subpoena, Brett, why don't you delete all your emails? See what happens to you.
Yeah, no, point taken for sure. So, yeah, that's certainly.
But Trump is obstructing justice by allowing a multi-year slander operation to continue. And then at the end of it, he's clean as a whistle, but now he's obstructed it somehow. Give me a break. Like, what a joke.
Yeah.
And what if Trump had deleted a single email? Imagine the meltdown. How funny. I wish he did. That would be awesome if he deleted one email and allowed them to melt down over it, and then you've got it juxtaposed against 33,000 Clinton emails deleted that were about yoga and weddings, I'm sure, dog walking and pleasure.
Yeah. No, so getting back to the point, I guess you're, making a good case why the mainstream media and CNN, it should not be trusted for their political commentary, I guess, right? And so who is the most trustworthy source for news?
Right here, the Brett and Jason channel. Civil disagreements.
Civil disagreements. This is where you find the both sides, get the true story, figure out what to think about it.
So. By the way, I changed my Twitter handle. I'll just let you know while we're recording for sake of humor. I've always had a blank Twitter handle with no bio, and I changed it to that guy on page 59 of the Mueller report. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You're breaking news here on civil disagreements.
I guess I am on video for the second time. I guess local news interviewed me.
So do you want to talk more about that? Like, so what that was a very passing reference. So
maybe we should save that for a whole nother podcast.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there then. Let people speculate for right now.
Yeah, maybe we could get together something really informative so that you can ask some hard-hitting questions that you think people would be interested in, and I'll just be on video answering them.
All right. That sounds good. Anything else to go over today at all?
I don't know, man. Like, pretty exciting. I guess Biden had another gaffe. I forgot what it was. They all kind of blew together.
Hey, breaking news. Biden had another gaffe.
Yeah.
Is that really breaking news
I
anymore?
think the breaking news is that they use the word gaff. It's like so charitable to he's having cognitive malfunctions. That's how I would word it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. So I haven't seen any of his speeches or anything like that. It doesn't seem like it's affecting anything in the polls at this point, and I think we're probably not going to get much movement in the race until the next debate, if at all. Right. So my thesis to our whole bet is Biden just has to keep doing what he's doing. Keep campaigning. Yeah, is he going to make some gaffes? Sure, but he's also going to come off as very genuine and an earnest, servant of the people. And people probably will overlook that if they think that his overall appeal is best to beat Donald Trump in the upcoming landscape. So that's my thesis. I'm sticking to it, and we'll see if you're ready to buy out of the bet yet. You were going to think about it. $100, you said.
Yeah, I'm still there at the. I guess his poll numbers went down a little bit, so now I'm a little more reluctant. But
did they go down?
yeah,
I don't know.
I still think it's a pretty fair bet. I wouldn't make it today if I had to make the bet. Like if the bet was proposed today, I would not make it. At the time we made it, I thought it was a good bet.
Yeah. So real clear politics average, Biden's at 30, Warren's 17, Sanders 16, Harris 8, followed by Buttigieg, O'Rourke, and Booker under 5 or 5.
Can you read the top three again?
Yeah. Biden 30.5%, Warren 17.3%, Sanders 16%, Harris 8%.
It's crazy how the Warren and Biden vote just like is perfectly, or excuse me, the Warren and Bernie Sanders vote is perfectly split to help Biden stay number one.
Yeah, so right there, I mean, if you just have one of those candidates in the race, and let's just say you combine the numbers, which I don't think you could really do.
But they would, a large amount of them, though, I think, would be that if you were a Warren supporter and she dropped out, or vice versa with Bernie Sanders, 80% of those voters, I would think, they're basically not Biden supporters.
I don't know, but I don't know that they'd be Sanders supporters either, because if you think about it, if let's just say, and I don't know these numbers, but let's just speculate that of the Warren supporters, how many do you think are women? Probably a good percentage, right? Probably like 60%, 65%.
Yeah, I don't know.
Something high, right? And so if you think about 65% of women, would they all go to Sanders, or would they just say, now we got two old white guys to choose from, Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, or maybe I go to Kamala Harris as my next high-profile woman candidate, if that's what they want to vote for, as a woman candidate, right? So
yeah, I don't know how like monolithic
and that the Sanders vote. You may have like the Sanders vote, a good portion of them would probably not go to Warren necessarily. Maybe they'd be like, no, I want an experienced, like older guy, white guy. And a lot of them would say, well, Biden's the next old experienced.
No, I don't know about that.
I don't know either.
I think most of Sanders supporters
they probably wouldn't just fall all in line one way or the other.
I think there's some Sanders supporters who like grew up in the 60s, for sure. But I think a large block of his support are from our generation or younger. And I think they would be inclined to go to someone like a Tulsi Gabbard candidate.
Pete Buttigieg,
Possibly. But he might even be too conservative for them.
Yeah, I don't know. I still haven't. Buttigieg.
What's his policies?
Yeah, that's my point is, like, I've listened to podcasts and interviews with.
You saw his town hall, right?
Did I watch all of that? I'm trying to remember. I did not watch his town hall. No.
Okay, I didn't either.
Yeah. Yeah, I've listened to him on interviews and podcasts and stuff, though, and he tries to, like, he's kind of like the Obama candidate, where he's able to talk about both sides of the issue, but then not necessarily,
say anything.
Yeah, say anything definitive or come out with super policies. Like he's pretty much, for the standard Democratic lines of healthcare for all and all that kind of stuff and relieving student debt. But it's kind of a question on, how liberal he really is, because he's able to kind of play both sides a little bit. But he's young and articulate, and I like him. Like, I think he's very well spoken and seems to be not somebody who wants to inflame people on either side of it. He wants to like kind of tamp down the flames on both sides, which I appreciate about him. So I think he would pick up a big part of the youth vote if Bernie dropped out. But let's be clear, none of these people are going to be dropping out anytime soon. In fact, the longer they're in the race and the more maybe they pick off a little bit of support from these other candidates that are going to drop out. So you got John Hickenlooper dropping out recently.
But he had 0%, right?
Yeah, 0 or 1. But, you start getting like, all these other candidates that maybe you're at 1. Like Beto's at 2.8%. So
who are those people
that are supporting him?
Yeah, I meet those guys.
I think they're people that, really believe that they should be the candidate. But at the end of the day, right, like when they do drop out at some point, when Beto's, 2 to 5% of the race drops out, who's going to get that support? Probably Buttigieg is going to get a fair amount, right? And so he's not dropping out anytime soon. So he's just having a little more percentage raise up, which is going to keep him in the race more so, because he's like, oh, I was at 5 and now I'm at 7, rising up in the polls. He's not dropping out, right? So you're going to have those top like 6, 7 candidates that are probably only incrementally going to get maybe a little more support, and also the undecided vote, right? So there's probably still 10-15% or something like that of people that are like, I don't have a preference of a candidate yet, I'm still watching. Well, that's going to push all these numbers up just a little bit, right? So the candidate that's at 5 that now is at 7, 2 or 3 months later is probably going to be like, oh, gain in support. I'm not dropping out. I'm on the rise. So it just makes them stay in the race longer, which is good for Biden at the end of the day, right? All these people staying in the race thinking they're on the rise, because he's probably going to be rising a little bit, maybe incrementally too. So
it's got to be really stressful to be Biden's doctor.
Why do you say that?
Because probably the whole nomination is like it's all like laid out there for him to just kind of like from a strategic perspective, it does seem like it's really well lined up that the president or President Obama is going to come in with his endorsement at the right time. And like, you're going to have just all of these powerful, popular figures from the Obama administration and Clinton campaign coming behind Joe Biden for the most part, not everyone, but it's kind of laid out for him. And the biggest obstacle is his health. Like the biggest obstacle is that
he hasn't had a history of health issues, has he?
I think he had a stroke, man. I think like in the last.
I don't know about that.
Well,
I don't think that's accurate.
Let me see.
I don't like during the Obama administration, or I don't think certainly recently, man.
No, well, not like in the last couple of years, but before that, I think.
No.
It might have been a minor one, but I think he did. I'm Googling right now. Biden's stroke. Yeah. How then Senator overcame life-threatening brain aneurysms in the 80s. Yeah, so these are recent articles. So I guess he had aneurysms in the 80s.
Yeah, this has been a long time.
Maybe it's cured, but those types of things, I believe, and his son had that brain tumor that was fatal.
But that's such a random occurrence. Like, it's not necessarily like, I mean, his son was obviously a lot younger than him and Joe Biden.
But again, let me ask you, other than health, what do you think is the biggest obstacle to Joe Biden's nomination?
It'll just be constant gaffes. Like if he's too slow, makes too many gaffes out there. That'll, I think, would be the biggest thing. But let's be clear.
They seem to be pretty forgiving of that so far, anyway.
Well, think about it too, man. Like, there was a lot of question about Ronald Reagan, and even after Reagan, left office, there's, I think, some biographies written about people saying, like, yeah, no, he clearly had signs of Alzheimer's while he was president of the United States. And there was a lot of question in the '84 election, well, in both elections, really, that Reagan wasn't quite on his feet. Now, it's interesting. Every time I've seen clips of Reagan or watch like a little bit longer speeches of him, I'm like, wow, he's kind of an amazing communicator. But
that was his reputation, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of questions over whether he was quick enough and everything, and he put that to rest in like some of the debate performances. But I don't think people thought he did that well during those debate performances in 1984. It's actually, that might be a little fun homework to do, is go back and watch just like, maybe not all of it, but say 20, 30 minutes of, some of those debate performances in '84. If Reagan can overcome those things, granted he was president and it's a little harder to unseat, a sitting president, especially when the economy was starting to like turn around and be on the up and up. So it's not quite a perfect analogy, but voters are willing to overlook a little bit of slowness, right? Because they're like, well, let's just say, I think a tough ticket would be Biden and Cory Booker. I think Booker may rise a little bit. I think he's somebody to watch. I don't think he's, going to win, but his stock may significantly rise over the course of the next few months. That would be a pretty compelling ticket, a Biden-Booker ticket, where they feel like...
Why is that compelling?
Because I think Cory has a very even kill message, and he's, somebody that is well-spoken and doesn't want to inflame both sides either. So he's pretty good at like tamping down the liberal flames that maybe sometimes come out from, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, that people think they're way too liberal. Cory seems like a little more moderate, very well-spoken. So I think he's could be a very good potential running mate for Joe Biden if and when that happens. I think he'd also be a very good fit for him. I think Biden he wouldn't have to fight with Cory Booker all that much, right? Like he wouldn't have to make up, like if he ran with Kamala Harris, it's pretty hard to say like, oh, everything's good now, even though Kamala thinks maybe I'm like helping racists. It's a little tough to bridge tougher to bridge that divide.
Yeah, I see it. And then just like, I can see a Biden Booker ticket. Sure.
Yeah. So, the other question too is voters would say, well, yeah, is he a little slower? Yes, but he's going to have, people that we believe serving him in his administration, right? He's going to get, a great young chief of staff, and like his cabinet secretaries are all going to be more liberal, but moderate from where they are now. So therefore we trust that the administration is going to run more like we think, even if they think Biden's maybe a little slower.
What do you think the odds are that Biden makes a pledge that he will only run for one term?
I think it would raise his chance to win a general.
Who would be the good running mate for him to do that with?
Yeah, so that person becomes kind of like a de facto possible next nominee, right? So I think Cory Booker would fill that role pretty well, right? Like, yeah, it's not going to be Bernie, right? He's not going to be like running Bernie. Yeah. So
maybe Buttigieg for that.
I think he's too young. And he doesn't really.
But in 4 years of being VP, but yeah, he's even too young to be VP. I agree. He's really well spoken, but like even me at 40 years old, I'm pretty reluctant to hand over the reins of so much of the government to an executive who's younger than I am. That's pretty scary.
You're pretty old though, Jason. So I mean.
I mean, I think 40 is an awesome age. It's one of the best ages, I think, to be alive. It's super precious because you've still got some youth, but you've got a little bit of wisdom budding.
Yeah.
But to be an effective commander in chief, I'd like you to have multiple decades of professional experience, diplomatic experience, know how to communicate, know how to deal with hard times, and just have a network that's super strong. And it's hard to do that in 37 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Having the experience as an executive is, very helpful. Although, a lot of senators aren't really well, they kind of are executives of their offices, but not really. They're not really running organizations and getting things to do. But, when you're president, you're kind of delegating a lot of those executive responsibilities to your cabinet secretaries and people in the administration too. So you're kind of just setting the vision. And that's why I think people would vote for Biden still, because they just would appreciate the vision that he sets and the people that he nominates to, carry out the job. But to answer your question, I think if he did say that, it would make it pretty hard for him to beat. I mean, I think would be hard to beat in a general election anyway. I think it'd be very difficult for Trump to win, and maybe that could be our next bet. Maybe we should throw that open. I hadn't even thought. So if Joe Biden wins the nomination.
Yeah, but if he wins the nomination,
right,
that's a big if.
Contingency bet. So
yeah, but who wants to make that bet? You have to factor in the odds to that. Insurance that you're building into your side of the bet.
There you go. You got to build it in then. So, yeah, I think we had a bet before. We had a bet last time on whether Hillary would win the election or not.
Yes, but it wasn't contingent on
Sanders. Yeah, of course. It's contingent on winning the nomination.
No, our bet was whether Donald Trump would beat Hillary.
Yeah.
It wasn't
before she wrapped up the nomination, though. I could be wrong, but still, you build that into the expectations. So what if I throw open that bet? So if Joe Biden wins the nomination, will you bet on Donald Trump to win the general election in that case?
As of today, I think Donald Trump is going to get reelected.
Okay.
When I mean, again, like the media narrative, like it's hard to tell what's the truth or not. But when I look at who turns out for a Joe Biden event, it's like 200 old people, half of whom are sleeping or fixing their hearing aids. And when I look at a Donald Trump event, it's sold out, overflow capacity arenas every single time he goes public. Years out before election day, even he's still crushing it every time he goes out. And Joe Biden's getting like maybe a couple hundred if he's lucky.
It's a difference of maybe where he's going to. Joe Biden's, campaigning in these early states, and there's a lot of people like they're going to these county fairs and that kind of stuff right now.
Well, I think Trump, wasn't he just in New Hampshire? Is that where he gave his latest rally? I think it was New Hampshire.
Yeah, no. So to your point, though, certainly I think Donald Trump gets a higher, more excited supporter, more voracious Donald Trump fan. He gets a bigger fan, like higher supporting fan base than like Joe Biden's fans. Like Donald Trump supporters love Donald Trump, but that doesn't. I wouldn't say that looking at rallies is going to tell you like overall support in the country. I think like we talked about on the last podcast, there's probably going to be a lot of Donald Trump fatigue going on, that people are just tired of it. They're just tired of listening.
I just don't know. I remember talking about that, and that was a good points that we were making, but I don't know how many people who support Trump aren't stronger supporters of Trump today. But I'm also making a distinction between the bullshit artists like Anthony Scaramucci, who are clearly just trying to raise their own stock and they don't have any integrity. As far as like, it's very hard for me to believe that you like love a guy and then hate a guy and you want to work for a guy. And it goes both ways. It goes with Trump too. But like, let's not take their opinion. As the average voter or the majority of voters who support Trump, how many of those people are sick of it? They're probably not many. They're probably more solidly behind him, saying, like, when's this fake news going to stop?
Well, I think also in the last election, though, you had a lot of people that disliked Hillary Clinton quite a bit and just were over the dynasty of like the Clintons, and they thought the Clintons brought as much baggage as Donald Trump did. Like,
that's a good point.
Clintons had tons of baggage, and it's always
Biden's got a lot of baggage too, though.
Not like the Clintons had, though, and nor the drama level that the Clintons have always carried amongst themselves. So it's kind of like choosing between two evils for a lot of voters, I think, in 2016. So I don't think that's going to exist this time around. I think people that are tired of that are more likely to vote for Joe Biden if he wins the election.
I'm just looking forward to when everyone recognizes that the Donald Trump campaign is all about love and unity and inclusion.
That's debatable. Yeah, that's debatable. And we've had some of those discussions on the race issues so far. So we'll let those ones speak for our disagreements on those issues. All right, Jason, any last words at all before we sign off here?
It's always fun and educational. I'm glad we could civilly disagree about stuff.
Absolutely. Do it again soon. Do you want to give them your Twitter handle to go check out your Twitter feed?
Not really. If you can't figure out who I am, I don't really care if you follow me.
All right. Maybe in a future episode. So this is Civil Disagreements with Jason and Brett, and we'll see you next time.